Thank you, Senator Pro Tem De Leon, for bringing this measure forward. And I think along the same lines of what my colleagues have been talking about, the baseload energy, and for us, it's the diversification of the portfolio, right? And to kind of steal some words from one of our Senate leaders, I want to underscore and emphasize, highlight, and italicize how important, and put in bold and maybe even circle, right, so no one misses this, that the opportunity to incorporate baseload energy in different parts of the state has to be, and I'm going to borrow another word here, intentional. And it has to be in the bill in order for us to get there, because it's clear to us that even through the efforts of low-cost best fit that we've incorporated into the SB 350 model, the PUC still has not gotten us there, right? And we need to ensure, and it's no secret, I'm speaking on behalf of my district, geothermal capacity, depending on who you ask, 2,000 megawatts, if not more, in a position to probably deliver on 1,000, today, with the infrastructure in place. But we have to ensure that it is clear in the policy so that the PUC is taking that direction. Now, for us in our district, it's not only about incorporate into the RPS of the state of California to meet these goals, but it's also about addressing an unemployment issue of, on a bad day, 28%, on a good day, 19%. It's not just about the incorporation to the RPS. It's about an environmental catastrophe that is in the process of happening as it relates to a shrinking Salton Sea and some of the largest water transfers in the country taking place this year. Right? And so we're not just talking about the environmental aspect of it, but we're also now talking about the public health components. So when we talk about low-cost best fit, we have to also be able to quantify what many times may not be quantifiable, right? The public health impacts to a region in Southern California. 7 out of 10 children suffer from respiratory disease problems already. And this is just at the cusp of these water transfers and the exceeding shrinkage of this large or the largest body of water in California. So when we're talking about meeting a 100% renewable energy portfolio, I think we have to be more purposeful when we're talking about what do we do to address these challenges during the intermittent periods, right? And we all support solar and wind. Those are two great assets that we have in our backyard as well. They've helped us get as far as, meeting the 33% now, as you said, without breaking a sweat, we'll get to 50%. You're not taking an amendment that reflects those needs today, but I'm hopeful that you are open that before this is done, that it becomes very clear to the Public Utilities Commission that we need to see the baseload energy components. And we're not just talking about geothermal, we're talking about the biomass and other opportunities, again, to diversify the portfolio, but also see the co-benefits that will come from that. And I'm speaking for Californians, I'm speaking for the people that I represent in Imperial and Eastern Coachella Valley, that, again, we're not just talking about meeting energy goals, we're talking about creating jobs, we're talking about serious environmental issues, but at the same time, public health issues that I know both you and I care about, and which is why we're in this conversation as it relates to climate change. So maybe you've got some comments or responses to those questions.
Through the chair, I want to say I appreciate very much your wonderful leadership when it comes to the issue of both climate, carbon dioxide, atmospheric issues that we're dealing with, and the consequences of climate, and how that's compounding the situation even more so in terms of poverty, and it's hotter as it is, but it gets even hotter in Imperial and Riverside counties, the areas that you represent, and the environmental aspects of it with regards to the air quality issues. With regards to specifically base load and specifically the geothermal, I know you've always been a true champion when it comes to geothermal. I know that Mr. Brian, Biomass Dolly, has always been a true champion himself and pushing biomass whenever he gets that opportunity, which I appreciate. You're doing what you need to do, So what I would say is this, is I have an open mind to work with you and as well as your constituents and your constituency. I would be loath through the chair at this moment to pick winners or losers. I think the criteria that we should always go is what's the least cost and what's the best mix for the utility. So again, I would state the following: what is the least cost, and what is the best mix for the utility? What is the best mix, I should say, for the utility? If it happens to be that biomass as well as geothermal are that, then I think that's fantastic. I do, with Senator Ben Hueso, who's always been a true champion, I do believe it does deserve a deeper conversation, and I'm glad you brought up the point because one of your colleagues, Assemblywoman Aguiar Curry, is currently moving a measure dealing with geothermal specifically. I don't know where it's at in the Senate committee. It's somewhere, but I'm looking forward to working with her to make sure that she's successful as well as she moves forward on this issue of specifically geothermal.
We're joint authors of that measure. It got out of the Utilities Committee this week. But I think it goes back to, again, really setting out a aspirational goal as well when it comes to the baseload renewable energies. There are, whether it be the utilities or, for that matter, the labor folks or the environmental folks, I think that it's become very clear that if we're not intentional with what we're trying to accomplish, it continues to be up for interpretation. And I know we talk about the low-cost, best fit model and trying to keep costs down, but I can't imagine that the cost of backfilling, the solar and wind periods when energy consumption is ramped up, that when you quantify those collectively, that the cost isn't comparable to the baseload energy opportunities, right? So I'm hopeful both in AB 920 or SB 100 that we can get to the finish line where it becomes very clear and where we send a clear market signal to all that we want to see baseload energy incorporated into trying to meet these very aspirational and ambitious renewable energy goals. I can't see an idea of asking folks moving forward, the new procurement, and I know that this gives a lot of people heartburn, and we saw legislation, about people refer to it as a carve out or X amount of megawatts, but in order for this to happen, there's got to be a very clear roadmap for it to happen. Sure. And so I'm hopeful that when we get to the finish line, it becomes clear in AB 920 or SB 100 that we are going to make an effort to get there. So thank you for entertaining these thoughts.
And through the chair, I admire your steadfast commitment to geothermal because it is your backyard. It is has an impact on your constituents. Again, looking forward to working with Ms. Aguiar Curry, as well as I'm finding out now that you're a principal co-author or joint author of the measure itself. Again, let me be very clear so it's stated on the record, and this is maybe should be a further conversations offline. My philosophy is benchmark has always been what's the least cost and what's the best fit for the utility. I hear the word intentionality, which is a word that I've used on numerous occasions in a sense of purpose. I see, and maybe we can work something out where we have the asterisk caveat again that within the base load utility mix, it's what's the best fit for the utility at the least cost possible. So, but again, admire your steadfast commitment to the issue of geothermal, and do look forward to working with you on this issue. Thank you.